What's up guys, Penguin Overlord here, and welcome back to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. In today's video I'm going to share my guide on how to kill Terminators in Breakpoint. This video will cover the tactics, weapons, and perks needed to terminate the machines. But before we can get into all of that, we need to understand how the Terminators work in Breakpoint. The game does not classify them as drones. The drone spray will not make you invisible to them, and the damage to drones perk will not do extra damage to them. EMP grenades do not shut them down completely, but they do seem to slow them down and prevent them from shooting as much as they usually do. Also, there are two types of Terminators in the game. There are the infiltrator units that look like humans, and the endoskeleton Terminators. The infiltrator Terminators have significantly more health than the endoskeleton Terminators, and are therefore harder to kill. Keep this in mind when we discuss what weapons to use when killing Terminators. No matter which Terminator you fight, the critical hit spot is in their chest, not the head like the human enemies in the game. Therefore, you need to aim at the chest in order to do significant damage to them, and to finish them off. Finally, the Terminators have two different health bars, a blue one and a red one. When a Terminator is displaying the blue health bar, any weapon can damage it. However, once the blue health bar reaches 0, the red health bar replaces it. At that point, only the Mark 14 termination can damage the Terminator, and even then only when it hits the center of its chest. Additionally, the Terminator can regenerate health when it hasn't been shot recently, so you want to constantly shoot it until it dies once it reaches red health. Good aim is essential here. So now that we understand how Terminators work in Breakpoint, let's discuss some of the tactics you'll need to take them down. Ideally, you'll want to lead them away from other enemies and fight them in a more isolated area, but that may not always be possible, especially if you're playing the live event missions. In that case, I try to let them kill as many other enemies as possible before going in to engage them. I also try to engage them one at a time when I encounter a group of them. While it is possible to fight multiple Terminators at once if they're grouped together, it is highly dangerous and I don't recommend it. When I do engage them, I try to lead them around the outside of buildings so that I can throw an EMP grenade at them, do some damage to them, and then retreat to the other side of the building. This limits the opportunities the Terminator has to shoot at me, which increases my survivability. I'll repeat as necessary until it goes to red health, and then of course I'll switch to the Mark 14 termination and shoot it until it dies. This brings us to the weapons I recommend using against Terminators in Breakpoint. I used most types of weapons against the Terminators, including the MGL Terminator, which is the mission reward for completing Clear Sky, the second Terminator story mission. For fighting the endoskeleton Terminators, I typically just blast them with the Mark 14 termination. There isn't much point to using a different weapon against them, as they are much weaker compared to the infiltrator units, and a fully upgraded Mark 14 termination typically makes short work of them. However, while a Mark 14 termination does good damage against the infiltrator units, its low capacity leads to having to reload more often, which lowers its DPS against the infiltrator unit. Therefore, in the initial phase of the fight, I'll use a different weapon against it. My favorite weapons to use against the Terminator initially are the Stoner LMG and the MGL Terminator. Both weapons offer fast damage output and knock the Terminator down quickly, which is important as the Terminator won't shoot you when on the ground and trying to get up from the ground. Also, when aiming correctly when firing the LMG, you can knock him down again soon after he gets up, further preventing him from doing damage to you. If I had to choose between the Stoner LMG and the MGL Terminator for playing a live event mission, I would choose the Stoner LMG, as I can carry more rounds for the LMG and not have to worry about running out of ammo if I have to engage other enemies besides the Terminator. While the MGL Terminator is very effective against Terminators and arguably destroys their blue health bar quicker than the LMG, the MGL has a small ammo pool, so there is a greater chance of running out of ammo if you have to fight other enemies or multiple Terminators. Also, if you're firing all 6 shots in quick succession, there is a good chance the 5th and 6th rounds will miss, as the Terminator typically gets knocked down between rounds 3 or 4. That said, the MGL is still one of my favorite weapons to use against Terminators, and certainly not a bad choice at all. Other explosives are a bit of a mixed bag. I typically don't use mines and grenades in Breakpoint much, and I prefer to have EMP grenades or syringes queued up for fighting Terminators, so I didn't use them much. I imagine, however, that they would do decent damage against the Terminator. The underbarrel grenade launcher does do good damage against the Terminator, but since you have to reload it immediately after you fire it, it has a slower DPS than other options, so I don't recommend it. The rocket launcher does a ton of damage to Terminators, and while at first glance it seems to be the best choice for taking out Terminators, it is slow to deploy, blocks access to syringes, which you will need if there's multiple Terminators or other enemies in the area, and has a limited capacity of 6, which means you have a chance of running out of rockets if you have to fight multiple Terminators. It is, however, a good way to do damage to the Terminator if you can ambush it. Assault rifles and SMGs do decent damage if you can hit the center chest, but since you have to frequently reload it, it leads to slower DPS, so I don't recommend them. The M82 does decent damage against it, but again, limited capacity leads to frequent reloads, which doesn't make it the best option. Shotguns work well, especially the M4 Assault, but you need to have True Grit active in order for it to do the full amount of damage. Speaking of True Grit, let's talk about what classes I recommend for taking out Terminators. While any class can take out a Terminator, in my opinion, Assault is the best class for dealing with them. You get an extra bar of health, which has saved me from getting killed on multiple occasions, and the True Grit ability reduces damage done to you by the Terminator, and it reduces recoil so that you can more easily land shots in the Terminator's chest. My second choice would be Field Medic for the self-revive ability in case you do get taken down by a Terminator. I don't use Sharpshooter or Panther against the Terminator, as I don't believe their abilities are ideal for fighting one. As far as perks go, there are 2 perks that I consider to be mandatory: Cold-Blooded and Feel No Pain. Cold-Blooded increases your health regen speed and reduces the health regen delay, and Feel No Pain increases injury resistance by 50% and prevents you from being critically injured. This is especially important because you do not want to lose a health bar when fighting a Terminator or multiple Terminators, and you especially do not want to get critically injured and lose access to your primary weapon. The last perk isn't as critical as the first 2, so that choice is up to you. I like using Gunslinger when using LMGs, Pack Mule if I need more ammo for my MGL, Rolling Thunder when I want to use my M82, and Explosives Expert if I want my MGL to do more damage. So that concludes my guide on how to kill the Terminators in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I hope this guide helps you terminate the machines faster, efficiently, and with extreme prejudice. I'm Penguin Overlord, and I will catch you all next time. Take care, guys.